and it's from an academic. Our presenter is a senior professor of civil engineering at the University of Moratuwa. He was the head of the Department of Civil Engineering from January 2000 to February 2016. His doctorate is from University of Tokyo, Japan in 1990. Is in the area of concrete technology. He has held Commonwealth Research Fellowship at the Imperial College London in 2004. He also has many research publications awards to his credit, including the President's Award for Scientific Research Publication 2010-2017. He also is a recipient of Anton Award IESL 2006, that's Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, where I come from, and the gold medal for the best paper, co-author, Society of Structural Engineers Sri Lanka 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about alternative construction materials, which is the last presentation for the day. And then don't forget, don't leave. There'll be 2 awards and thank you notes. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Professor S.M.A. Nanakara, Department of Civil Engineering, University of Moratuwa. Professor Nanakara, over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Arjuna. Now I have a problem of sharing my screen. Yes, okay, now.
Professor, before you do that, you have to position yourself so that we see your face fully.
How about this position?
Yes, that's a lot better. That's great.
Okay, how about the sound?
Sound is fantastic.
Right. Okay, I will quickly start my presentation because I have so many slides to share. I'm going to talk about alternative construction materials that can be used in the building construction, which is quite different to the presentation that you all have listened to so far. Now, these are basic construction materials used in building construction, and all these are natural resources. This chart shows the volume of natural resources used in building and transport infrastructure between 1900 and 2010. It can be seen that the rate of consumption has increased exponentially, especially with respect to the concrete, sand, and gravel. Situation in Sri Lanka is not much different from that global trend. I'm going to explain the situation in Sri Lanka with respect to one construction material, that is sand. In civil engineering terms, we call it fine aggregate. Now, fine aggregate can be from different sources, either natural sand, crushed rock, or we call it manufactured sand, or it can be a industrial byproduct, such as bottom ash coming from coal-fired power plants. The main source of natural sand is used in the construction industry, the river sand. There are other alternatives such as land-based sand, dune sand, and offshore sand. Now, what's the situation with respect to river sand in Sri Lanka? Now, this graph shows the current issue related to river sand in Sri Lanka. It shows the price variation of cement and river sand to construction materials over last 28 years. Up to 2003, you can see that not much increase in price, and there's not much of difference in increase in price between these two construction material. But beyond that, the river sand price has increased by 30 times due to shortage of supply as a result of as a result of mining and transportation restriction imposed by the government. Now, this trend was expected way back in 1992. There were several studies carried out in 1992, 1995, 1999, and 2002, and proposed several options to overcome this situation. But not fully, those proposals were not fully implemented. The last one was in 2014 by the CEDAW. The current sand price is about 16,000. It varies from 15,000 to 16,000. Is very, very expensive when compared with other the construction material, even with the world price. Unless we come up with a solution to this one, this trend will increase. So what is the annual sand requirement in Sri Lanka? Estimation of annual sand requirement for building and civil engineering construction, since there are no proper records of sand mining, the annual sand requirement was estimated based on the cement consumption. As mixed proportion of cement to sand for various applications in building constructions are known. Now this graph shows the cement consumption in Sri Lanka during last 20 years. Even though there are some ups and downs in cement consumption, there's a general trend, that there's a general increasing in trend. According to the cement manufacturers, main consumers of cement are the house builders. That is about 70% of the cement manufactured and imported to Sri Lanka are consumed by the house builders. The estimated sand demand based on the cement consumption in 2018 was 22 million. Out of those 22 million, 40% was consumed in the Western province. Now, how about the supply of sand to the Western province to fulfill this demand? Now, this shows the main river basins. All these main rivers were heavily mined to meet the increase in demand. And the impact of uncontrolled sand mining, this shows the photos show the impact of an uncontrolled sand mining. So there can be coastal erosion, lowering of the riverbeds, saltwater intrusion due to lowering of riverbeds and riverbank collapses and the loss of land. As a result, it can affect the agriculture, water supply, fisheries, and tourism. So, what are the solutions that we have to overcome this environmental impact due to excessive river sand mining? The solutions, first thing that we must restrict river sand mining at harmful locations. Then we must try to reduce the demand for river sand in building construction. And finally, we must introduce alternative for river sand to meet the increase in demand. Let's see how we can reduce the demand for river sand in building construction. Some are listed here: precast concrete building construction, utilization of construction and demolition waste, improve workmanship, and use of industrial byproducts. Now, if you take the precast concrete construction in 70s, I think you all know that most of the high-rise buildings were constructed by precast concrete elements. So now the precast concrete construction is the way forward in high-rise building construction. we can achieve better quality control, fast construction, effective utilization of all these natural resources. Now, if you take the utilization of construction and demolition waste, we can produce recycle aggregate from this construction and demolition waste. There are mobile plants, the fixed plants. However, still the construction industry is not paying much attention to utilize construction and demolition waste to produce recycle aggregate. Therefore, intensive schemes should be introduced to encourage contractors to convert this waste into a value-added products. The last one is introduce alternative fine aggregate for river sand to meet the increase in demand. That is the main point in this presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we can have land-based sand, dune sand, offshore sand, manufactured sand, and industrial byproduct like bottom ash coming from the coal-fired thermal power plants. Now, if you take the land-based sand, you can see the destruction to the environment, right? Whenever the people find the sand deposits, land-based sand deposits, they mine those things using heavy machinery. And this type of sand mining has created irrecoverable environmental damage. So therefore, land-based mining should not be encouraged. The dune sand in Sri Lanka, dunes exist along northwest coast, northeast coast, and southwest coast. And these are huge sand dune you can find in Putlam area. Now this shows the profile of a healthy beach. The profile of a healthy beach, dunes are part of it. So dunes are part of active coastal systems. Therefore, you should not extract sand from dunes or beach so that, we can preserve the coastal line. So what is remaining as alternatives are the offshore sand and manufactured sand, small quantities of industrial byproducts. Now, if you take the offshore sand, it is not beach sand that we are talking about. Offshore sand is sand dredged from the deep sea, more than 20 meters deep and far away from the coastline, right? Offshore sand has been used for construction in other parts of the world. Sea dredged sand and gravel contribute 24% of total aggregate consumption in UK. For anything and everything, we check the UK practice. Use such aggregate in concrete has not caused any major durability problems in UK during the last few decades. These are the major civil engineering projects in UK where marine aggregates have been used. So what are the problems with offshore sand? The grading, that is the particle size distribution, it can vary depending on where you dredge sand. Then the shells. Will that shell fragments in offshore sand affect the workability or the durability of concrete that you produce from the offshore sand? And the biggest problem is the soil contamination, the chlorides. Now that can promote the corrosion of reinforcement in reinforced concrete, and also you can get white patches on the surface of concrete if you use offshore sand with chlorides. Extensive studies have been carried out to investigate the suitability of offshore sand as an alternative to river sand, and these are the results. And this shows the particle size distribution of offshore sand taken from several locations. Now, depending on the location, you can see that it varies from fine zone to the coast zone. Now, this is not a big issue. The particle size distribution is not a big issue. Depending on the particle size distribution, we can adjust the mixed proportion, come up with the required performance of the concrete. The next is the shell content in offshore sand. we can easily remove the shells greater than 4 millimeters. Now the sand is defined as the particles less than 4 millimeters. So we have to remove the particles more than 4 millimeters, and you can easily remove the particles greater than 4 millimeters. So it contains shells and the pebbles. Now, less than 4 millimeters, it is difficult to remove the shell fragments. Now, there's a standard, BS standard 882 that gives the specification for aggregate from natural sources for concrete. Now, there you can find limits for shell content. Interestingly, there's no limit specified for fine aggregate, but you can find the limits for coarse aggregate, that is larger particles from 10 to 5 to 10 millimeters and more than 10 millimeters. Now, if you refer to the SLS standard, there's SLS standard, Sri Lanka standard specification for fine aggregate, for concrete and mortar. There the shell content is limited to 15%. Now, these are the small shell fragments you can find in offshore sand. Now, these two photographs shows the offshore sand and river sand. Now, I cannot ask you this question, but I think most of you will guess the top one as the offshore, the river sand, and the bottom one as the offshore sand. It is the other way around. Top is the offshore sand, rounded and smooth, and the bottom is the river sand. So it has traveled a long distance, and during that time it got smoothened and rounded. And this is an advantage, that shape and the roundness is an advantage that will improve the workability of concrete. So the effects of shell present in offshore sand, that will, the shells get covered with cement, paste or mortar in concrete, and that will not impair either concrete strength or impermeability. The workability may get affected because those are flat particle shell fragments, has also been found to be offset by their smoothness and also the greater roundness of the offshore sand itself. The biggest problem is the chloride content in offshore sand. As it is, it contains about 0.28%, and if you wash it, you can remove these chlorides. And if you refer the standard for concrete and standard for aggregate, there are limits specified for chloride content in concrete depending on the type of concrete. And if you convert these limits to maximum total chloride content in concrete expressed as a percentage of chloride by mass of sand for different grades of aggregate, you can come up with these figures. So the most critical one is the critical requirement is for pre-stressed concrete, that is about 0.03%, and the SLS standard limit the chloride limit to a maximum of 0.1%, very much less than the most critical requirement, that is to build up the confidence of the consumers. So the recommendation is we have to sieve the sand, remove the shells, the large shells, and we have to wash it with fresh water. Now, Sri Lanka Land Development and Corporation is doing this job. They are dredging and pumping to a site in Muttarajavela, and they do sieving and washing, and this is the washed offshore sand. The borough area is situated about 10 to 14 kilometers away from the shoreline with an average depth of 30 meters in Kerawalapitiya, Muttarajavela. The extent of borough area is about 100 square kilometers, and they got the approval from GSMB where the estimated quantity available there is about 264 million cubic meters. Okay, now the next one is the manufactured sand. Now this is a byproduct coming from the production of coarse aggregate. We call it crusher fines, quarry dust, and once you process it, we call it manufactured sand. At present, it is not produced as a main product, it is a byproduct. Why we have to process it? It contains very fine particles, particles less than 75 microns, and there are advantages as well as disadvantages of these fine particles. Because of this fine content, it will improve the cohesiveness of the concrete, that will prevent the segregation. But the disadvantage is that will increase the water demand. Now, if you don't use the chemical admixtures, you have to increase the water content to improve the workability. Now, that can result in increase in shrinkage and reduce the strength. So, to overcome this problem, we have to use chemical admixtures. When you're using the manufactured sand or crusher fines, then it is essential to use the water reducing admixtures to improve the workability. Now, there are limits on silt and dust content given in various standards for depending on the application. So this is the washing plant that can be used to remove the excess fines, not all, but excess fines in the crusher fines. So the ideal percentage is around 8 to 10%, but in some manufacturers reduced to a very low value as 3%. The last one is the use of industrial byproducts. Now, this diagram shows the coal combustion process and generation of coal combustion waste. Now, we have coal-fired thermal power plants in Norochole. There are 3 power plants, each producing about 300 megawatts. And the daily consumption of coal is about 2,500 per plant. And what are the waste materials coming out from this one? There are 2 waste materials. One is the fly ash collected at this baghouse, the electrostatic precipitator. So very fine particles, spherical in shape. The quantity is about 750 tons per day. And the other, the waste product is.
Just to interrupt you, sir, for a minute.
Yeah.
We'll have to wrap up the lecture in about 1 minute and take some good questions that are waiting for you.
Yes, sure. So the bottom ash is the other waste product, and these are not waste material. And I will skip this one. And this can cause environment and health impact. So we have to minimize the health impact or environment impact by utilizing in a proper way. So fly ash can be utilized as a component of blended cement, and also we can use the as a separate materials in concrete. And bottom ash we can use for green products, and it can be considered as a lightweight aggregate if you consider the properties of bottom ash, and that can be used to produce lightweight cement blocks, form concrete, and geopolymer concrete. So now this shows the table shows the lightweight cement blocks made with bottom ash, 100% replacement. You can see that the weight of the cement block is less than the weight of the cement block with river sand. The price is not much different, right? So you can replace river sand with the bottom ash 100%. And this is another product. I'm not going into details. This, time is running out. The form concrete, you can reduce the weight further by using forming agent. And the bottom mesh is a 100% waste product. Bottom mesh based geopolymer is 100% using waste product. Bottom mesh, crushed bottom mesh. The other one is the slag is another industrial byproduct coming from steel production and activated by alkali materials. And the most important thing is ambient curing, and we can obtain this kind of solid products. Okay, so
Professor,
now,
shall we go to the questions?
Yes.
Because we are definitely running out of time. So let's ask
Yes.
2 or 3 questions, and that will be better. And you are,
Yeah.
don't worry, your presentation will go to the viewers and the participants in digital format and everything, so you will not lose your efforts at all.
Yes.
And rushing it through will not help either party. So the first question is on the lines of something like this. A lot of alternative materials have been found in Sri Lanka, but they never make it to the market. Why is that? A short answer. So they are not really being used. What's the reason? Is it the lack of incentives for those who make them, and what is going on?
The lack of awareness, and especially now these two materials. I mean, still people are afraid to use offshore sand because of these, adverse effects. People are thinking that still the chloride will be there. So because of lack of awareness, the awareness is the most important thing.
Very good. And what do you suggest? Either way, that's just a question that came to my mind. What should the professional bodies should do about that? Because the awareness must come from professionals like yourself.
Exactly. Now the main problem with the professionals, because they know that, I mean, this can be used, but they are reluctant to specify. Now, if you consider all the government organizations that, I mean, they are still insisting river sand, right? They are still insisting river, but they are jolly well know that, I mean, you can, right? But in their specification, they find that it is specified. The river sand is specified. So that is the main problem. So the professionals itself that, I mean, change their mindset and then go for these alternatives. Until that time, you cannot change it. It's not the general public.
Yes. Isn't that the statement of the day, Professor? Professionals have to change their mind and go forward.
Yes, exactly. That is my experience. I mean, so many years they're dealing with the professionals that, I mean, there are some professionals, they don't want to change their, the way that look at the problem.
Right. Next question, another quick answer is expected. Offshore sand is stockpiled in Colombo. Can't we stockpile them in Galle, Hambantota, Trincomalee and Oluville?
The problem is the transport cost. Yes, you can process it and transport to the required places.
Here's the one I really love. We are yet to reach acceptable levels of standards for local products. Example, bricks. Very true. As a kid, I used to see some good bricks, not anymore. Why is that? So how can we?
Exactly. I mean, now I have mentioned that there are several ways that you can reduce the sand demand in building construction. Now, if you find the local bricks in the market, all are, all are, I mean, not complying with the standard size. If the bricks are not complying with the standard size, then you have to use more mortar to fill the, gaps. That is called chapparu, right? So about 20% of extra sand that you have to use to fill these gaps. So that is why you have to go for standard bricks so that you can reduce the sand requirement in especially brickwork.
Right. Professor, just for the day's sake, last question. You may take this or you may refuse to take this. Mount Lania sand issue. And the comments by the engineers that it will take care of it on its own. What are your thoughts about it? If you may speak up about that or not, it's up to you.
No, it is not my area of specialty. Sorry that I cannot answer that one. Right. My area of specialty is concrete ecology.
Right. So thank you very much, Professor Nanayakkara. Thank you very much for participating with us.
Yes.
Really great presentation from
thank
a
you.
technical perspective. And we will be definitely using the one. As being an engineer, I myself understand the value of your presentation. So thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arjuna. Yeah,
thank you.
Okay.
Take care now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. You are still waiting on the line. We appreciate your presence even at the very last stages of this conference, which is the 33rd annual sessions, the flagship event of the OPA. And this was fully done digitally in this COVID times, which is the first time for the OPA. Let me do a quick wrap up of the events, today's events. Today's was the second day of the session. We started with Mr. Chari, who's a management consultant for